Okay, so for the next bound buttonhole, I'm going to use the instructions in your jacket book. And so I'll just kind of keep it here so I can refer back to it. And the first thing that you're going to do is you want to mark your fabric and your jacket front with your center front line, which I've done all the way down. And then I went over into the extension 1/8 of an inch to mark where the buttonhole starts. Went back in an inch and basted in where it stops. And then I also basted in the center of where the buttonhole's going to be. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take an organza patch. So this is silk organza and it's cut on the bias. You can probably see the lines here. And silk organza is a wonderful fabric to use to stabilize because it's pretty sturdy, it's strong, but it's also crisp and it's very lightweight, so it doesn't really cause any bulk and you can see through it. So it's perfect. So organza patches are great for this. They're also really good for other areas that you're sewing. If you ever have to sew like to a point in something and slash it, an organza patch really is great. I'll show you some examples of where we use it in other places after. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pin this on the side, and then I'm going to actually baste through the organza patch so that it will stay on. And see how I have it here. So I've already basted it before, so I'm just going to baste it. Whoops, this is wrong. I'm just going to baste it again right on top of my previous basting. So I'm going to move this up to a 4 millimeter, and I'm just going to go right along here, and I'm going to take my pin out now that I've got my needle in. And we've got our threads here that we don't want to get caught. So just going right through. Okay, let's take out this pin. Go a few more stitches and we're done. Okay? Alright, so I've got that basted and I just went right over my previous basting. So we're good on that. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is I need to sew a rectangle. And I need to sew this the length of the buttonhole right here. And I want it to be a 1/4 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch wide on each side. So I want the lips part of the bound buttonhole to only be an 1/8. So I'm just going to do a 1/4 beyond the stitching. So, and I've already got my lines here. I'm going to use this one, chalk wheel, because it does a really fine line. So I've already got where it starts and stops. So what I need to do now is just mark an 1/8 of an inch, and it's hard to see in that light, but here we go. There we go, 1/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to use this to mark where that is. And then I've already marked this side. I'll mark it again because the chalk comes off. Okay, so there's my box. Now, in marking it, as I measure this, it looks a little wide. And so what I'm going to do is when I sew, I want to sew on the inside part of that chalk marking. If I sew right in the middle of that chalk marking, I'm going to end up with slightly more than a 1/4. So, but even if you do that, that's okay. It just makes it a little bit bigger. But I'm going to go with that. And I'm going to use small stitches, so I need to go down to 1 millimeter on my machine. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here. I'm going to start in the middle, then I'm going to go over to where the buttonhole stops, and then I go up to the other 1/4 of an inch chalk, over, down, and back to where I started. You don't want to start and stop in a corner because it weakens that corner. So if you start and stop in the middle, you'll do much better. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, wait. I just put in a new foot.